I want to talk about Britney Spears. So, we did a podcast earlier on the Modern Divorce podcast, and we talked about Britney Spears and we talked about the conservatorship after the Free Britney movie took off or movement took off, and the documentary was released that didn't have her in it, but talked about the public's response to Britney's conservatorship and her kind of strange Instagram posts and what appeared to be her being trapped as a slave. So things have changed since then. Things have happened. Things have come out. And yesterday was a massive, massive turn in the Free Britney movement. Britney finally came out and spoke for herself. She hasn't. Now, just a little bit of background. This conservatorship was put into place in 2008 following a messy, messy divorce and her losing her two little boys and her kind of public breakdown in response to a massive amount of pressure and the her being depicted as mentally ill and crazy. So her father, who had not had a relationship with her, went ahead and got a conservatorship and a guardianship, both. A conservatorship is when you control someone's money. A guardianship is when you control their physical custody, sort of like somebody is a child, but it's actually much, much worse than someone being a child. Britney Spears isn't in control of her money. She's not in control of who she sees, when she works, even her lawyer or her medical care. Now, just this week, there was a Supreme Court decision regarding a high school student. This high school student was on the JV cheerleading team. And one weekend on Snapchat, she ranted and raved about how much she hated her effing school and her effing cheerleading squad. And she just talked about how frustrated she was. The school kicked her off of the cheerleading team and said that she was violating the social media policy. She sued and said that that violated her First Amendment right to free speech. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, which agreed unanimously that a high school student, so someone under 18, has the right to free speech, and a school can't tell her what to say, especially when she's not on school grounds. What does that have to do with Britney? Well, Britney has not been able to say what she wants to say. Her rights have been taken away from her by her father and by the state of California when she was ruled to be incapacitated. Now, what has she said? Yesterday, she said that she wants to get married and she wants to have a baby. She's had a boyfriend. She's in a relationship with Sam Asghari, and her handlers, her father, her conservatorship team will not allow her to go get the IUD taken out so she can get pregnant because they said during the conservatorship, she's not allowed to have a baby. There's a couple of massive, massive issues with this. Number one, the right to get married was adjudicated to be a fundamental right under the Constitution in a case called Loving v. Virginia that had to do with interracial marriage. That fundamental right to marriage has gone all the way down the line and has been used in large part to make same-sex marriages a right that people can have. Well, to have a Britney Spears who works, who makes lots of money, who performs all over the world, and who doesn't really have a choice in the matter, to tell her that she is not able to make a decision about who she wants to marry or whether or not she has a baby, it should be very, very troubling. She also said that she's been drugged. After she canceled her Las Vegas residency, she was made to take lithium. She doesn't like lithium. She has said it's too strong. She said, I feel drunk. She's said that there are 6 different nurses that come to her house to monitor her condition, and nobody is listening to her. She's been given allowance by her father of $2,000 per week, while her father makes a salary of $16,000 per month. Yeah, this is a big problem. And she was also told if she didn't finish a contract that her own management company would sue her, and she would be in breach of contract to them, and she would be unable to hire her own lawyer. This is also an issue. She is unable to hire a lawyer to even fight for her rights. What's most troubling, or very troubling, is that her lawyer was shocked by the things she had to say yesterday when she said that she wanted this to be public. Now, how could her lawyer not know how it is that she feels? Like, as a lawyer, that's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. Like, you should be talking to your client. You should know what your client wants. So let's talk a little bit about how this conservatorship happens. What's incapacity? Well, in California, incapacity is the inability to understand or communicate with others, problems recognizing familiar people and objects, failure to reason logically, presence of delusions or hallucinations, inability to control mood, failure to understand and appreciate the consequences of their actions. Things that can cause incapacity are dementia, psychosis, and Alzheimer's disease. This is a little problematic. This law is incredibly vague, incredibly subjective. What constitutes let's just look at this. What constitutes a inability to control your mood resulting in actions that are inappropriate in relation to the circumstances? What does that even mean? Does that mean an emotional outburst is unacceptable, or she can't have feelings, or she can't have thoughts, or she can't make decisions for herself? This is really troubling. And there are people who are under conservatorships and guardianships all over the country, people who are not as public as Britney Spears. Maybe it's not as egregious as Britney Spears, but these people are essentially slaves. And that's what she said. She said that she's a slave, that she's a prisoner. Now, why is it that a 16-year-old JV cheerleader has protections under the Constitution, but someone who has been deemed to be incapacitated cannot? Now, if she's also been deemed incapacitated, does it mean that she cannot go hire her own lawyers and she cannot go seek her own medical treatment to prove the doctor's wrong? Hugely problematic. And I wonder if this law is unconstitutional, as unconstitutionally vague. I was talking to my 16-year-old about this, and he had some ideas. Well, what if she travels outside of the state of California? He said, good point, my dear Sebastian. Whenever you're traveling across state lines, now you're invoking federal jurisdiction. So perhaps when you're outside of the state of California, maybe then she could hire a lawyer. Of course, she doesn't have access to her money, but I'm willing to bet a lawyer would take this on for her, knowing that they could get paid on the back end. Also, he said, what about if she's in another country? Aha, my dear Sebastian, another great idea. What if she sought asylum? Could she go to another country and say, I am being persecuted in my own country, give me political asylum? Maybe. I don't know. But I think there's got to be options for Britney Spears. Now, we've been watching this saga play out for a little while, and nobody's really doing anything. And I am really wondering at this point, what can be done? Who has standing to sue on behalf of Britney Spears? It really has to be her or her kids. Somebody who's attached to her has to have standing to sue, or she has to sue, and she has to figure out how to sue. And she's been largely swept away and kept all by herself. She's also been separated from her children, her two boys, based on an order of protection that was placed against her father when he abused them, or one of them. So all in all, it's a really sad story. If you watch her Instagram, it's a little disturbing. You're wondering what the heck is going on. But then if you listen to what she said yesterday, if you read what she said yesterday and all of her quotes, and I didn't even get to them all, you will see that this is an articulate, thoughtful girl who has a very good point and who somebody needs to advocate for. So my lawyer friends, I look forward to hearing what it is that you think she can do in terms of her legal arguments. Are there constitutional violations? Are there asylum claims? Is the statute in California vague, overly broad? Let me know what you think, and we will update the Modern Divorce Podcast. Thanks.